Notes from the Fringe, Episode 2: The Eyewitness Account of the Armadale Black Triangle Close Encounter.
Well, it was August of 1994 in Armadale, Australia, when my life changed forever. About 11:15 at night, there was a crazy lightning storm. So I stopped my car at Armadale to watch the storm. It was then when I kind of noticed something over the trees out in the back fields, past the bog. It was a kind of black object, just hovering there. I stood there and just watched for a few minutes, and I told myself, I need to get a better look at that thing. So that's when I got in my car and just slowly drove while looking for it again. And then when I seen the object, I still can't be sure if it was the same one, but I assumed at the time that it was, of course. So I hit the brakes and just stopped and watched it about 100 meters away, just slowly glide silently into the middle of the field, about 15 feet off the ground. Appearance-wise, it wasn't the classic saucer shape. No, it was more rectangular with sharp angles and just black, flat black. No signs of light at all. And since it was an August summer night with a lightning storm in the distance, it was still a quite bright sky actually, so I could make out the object very well. That's when I realized I needed to get an even better look. I needed to drive around the back roads and get behind it. And in doing that, I came around behind it, and it looked as if it hovered there, around 15 feet off the ground. And that's when I noticed the shape even better. From the nose of it, it looked like an upside down triangle about 40 feet long. It had like a tapered front end, and the point of the triangle was facing downwards, kind of sloped down. I had such a good look at it now. I sat and watched for a good 20 minutes in amazement. So that's the time that I phoned the police for the first time and told them my location and that I was watching an object in the field of an unknown origin. It was also then when I thought about grabbing the halogen lamp that I had to get an even better look at it. And as soon as the beam went on, there was a bit of a flash, and then the halogen light just switched off. And that's when I started to get a bit frightened. Like, what did I do? So I jumped in my car and hit the ignition, and the car was completely dead, no power, no lights of any kind were on. Now I'm in a real panic. And it was in that confusion that I realized the object had begun to move. In fact, as soon as it shut off the halogen light, it began reversing at a high rate of speed in the other direction, silently and smoothly, back towards Armadale. It was an alarming rate of speed, and for me, eliminated the possibility that it was military of some kind. The silence, the speed was unlike anything I've ever witnessed before. The only sound at all was a whooshing sound of the wind as it picked up speed. And that's when I made the second call to the police. And it turns out that they were on the 89, which is a parallel road. And they were looking for me, so I told them I was on the other road. And then I saw the blue lights in the distance. And seconds later they were on me. And I assumed that they had seen it as well, because of the distance, but they hadn't. And I was frustrated knowing how close they had come to seeing it. So as we talked about the encounter for a few minutes, other police cars started to pull up as well. That's also the first moment I remember having a bit of suspicion in me, because an officer I had never even talked to grabbed a traffic cone and walked it straight out to the field and placed it in the spot exactly where the object had been. That's when the plainclothes cop, who seemed to be in charge of the whole investigation, started to question me. And when the other cops said they'd like to breathalyze me, he quickly said, no, that won't be necessary. I was stone sober anyway, so I didn't think much of it. Go right ahead, I said. But me and the plainclothes officer began to talk quite in depth about the incident, and he seemed very interested in my account. By then it was 2 a.m. and the police cars started leaving, all except for the first car, with the police lady that showed up. And as both of us were looking in the direction the object left, we saw a light quickly rise up, and then back down again, and then up. But for some reason that officer would later say she saw nothing at all. And then they sent some mechanical people out to look over the car. They were getting ready to tow me back when the lights kicked on, but the ignition was still dead. So they proceeded to tow my car back. And when I got back home, I was concerned about my window being stuck down because it was electric. So I was looking for some plastic to put over the window. And that's when I heard the car alarm go off. And I went and checked, and the car was now fully functional. All the electronics worked. So I remember being relieved about that. From then it was just a case of getting back to my life, and the next day at work I had to endure the guys talking about UFOs and little green men. That faded over time, but I get it, because unless you have seen it yourself, you just can't get it or comprehend. Your mind forces you to think it was something I had imagined or misunderstood. But even though I had to endure a bit of ridicule, there were just as many professors and university types that were interested in the details and kept wanting to interview me. I even made it into the papers, which is when my parents called and wanted to know what got into me. That's me account, or at least I thought that was me account. However, I would soon learn more. This is to be continued. Thank you so much for watching episode 2 of Notes from the Fringe. This is part 1. Please like and subscribe, as we will be uploading the second part of this story very soon. And we will have new episodes coming to you weekly. Thank you for your support.